He was elected 4 times, and that alone should tell you something unusual was happening. Franklin D. Roosevelt didn't just respond to a crisis. He stayed in power long enough to reshape the presidency itself. Hi, I'm Papa G, looking at what happens when leadership extends through crisis and into something more permanent. By the mid-1930s, Roosevelt's New Deal had already changed the relationship between Americans and their government. Programs like Social Security created long-term support systems. Federal agencies became a regular part of economic life. And for many Americans, the expectation shifted. When things go wrong, Washington steps in. But not everyone was comfortable with that. Roosevelt faced growing criticism, especially from those who believed he was expanding executive power too far. That tension came to a head in 1937 with what's known as the court packing plan. Frustrated that the Supreme Court had struck down several New Deal programs, Roosevelt proposed adding more justices to the court. He presented it as a matter of efficiency, but many saw it as an attempt to reshape the court itself. Even some of his allies pushed back, and the plan failed. Then the focus shifted from economic crisis to global conflict. As war broke out in Europe, Roosevelt had to balance two pressures: a country that largely wanted to stay out of war, and a growing sense that staying out might not be possible. He supported allies like Britain to lend-lease, gradually moving the United States closer to involvement. And after Pearl Harbor, the country was fully in. During World War II, Roosevelt worked closely with leaders like Winston Churchill and Joseph Stalin, an alliance that was effective but complicated. The goal was clear: win the war. But the relationships and the long-term consequences were far more complex. Roosevelt did not live to see the end of that war. He died in April 1945, just months before victory. After more than 12 years in office, he left behind a presidency and a federal government that looked very different from the one he had inherited. So what's the takeaway? Roosevelt didn't just lead during a crisis. He helped establish a new expectation that in times of national emergency, the federal government would play a central role in responding. And that leaves us with a question that still lingers: how far should that role go? Next time, we meet the man who steps into that question almost immediately and has to make one of the most consequential decisions in human history. Harry S. Truman is up next.